So I wasn't going to do the Finally Fall book tag. I've done it the last couple of years, but then I saw World Hoppers do it, and if you don't follow World Hoppers, I'll link it down below, and it was just really fun watching them do it. It's a little chaotic, which in the best way. And so I'm like, yeah, let's go through what I've read since I last did this and answer these questions again. So I tried to make sure I didn't pull too heavily from books that I recommended for the fall kind of haunting season for some of the darker questions. There might be like one overlap, and none of these should be on my tag from last year because, like I said, I'm trying to pull from this year. And again, I came in this room, the cats were napping and asleep. I've tried not to wake them up. They are kittens. We will see what they do. And I have the window open because it's a gorgeous fall day today. This is like ideal fall. It's like 60 degrees outside, sunny, the leaves are starting to change. So I'm also feeling the vibe for recording this today. So starting with question number one, I have the prompts written over here so I can pull from them. In fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. And this is actually my one crossover, but like truly it's just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I still think about this setting. It's been months, and that is Leech. The thing I think most about this book is the atmosphere, is the setting. It's how cold it feels. It's how haunting and empty and like creaky this house is, how ominous the caves are. The first scene is on this train traveling to this region, and I felt like I was on this train. So vivid setting for me, my definitions, this is very vivid. I've talked about this book recently, but in case you haven't seen that video, this is a story about kind of this creature that can be in many host bodies, and one of its host bodies kind of stops working, kind of dies, which isn't supposed to happen, so he's investigating what happens, or they, gender is very ambiguous here, and it's very suspenseful and thrilling and gothic and sci-fi, and the world building is so cool. So it's not without its faults. I didn't love the pacing entirely, but for a debut, I really loved it. Also really loved the audiobook. So that's what we'll start with for that one. And now for number two, nature is beautiful but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written but also deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. And this automatically in my head had to be Nightcrawling. This is a book I was very unprepared for. Kieran is biting at my notebook here. I'll show you guys Kieran real quick before we talk about this dark and heavy book. It's little Kieran who woke up from his nap, so he's very malleable. Hello, you want down? Okay, so Nightcrawling. This is a story about a girl, I think she's 15 or 16, in Oakland, California, and basically her and her brother are trying to make it. Her brother isn't really holding down a job. She's not really in school because she's trying to find work. There's really not a lot of work because she hasn't turned 18, so she ends up accidentally falling into the world of Nightcrawling, which is not like the movie. She's basically selling her body for money. And it kind of goes into that, going into the corruptness of the police force. It is so dark, but the author is a Gen Z author. She's very young. I think she wrote this when she was 19 and is a poet, and it's so beautifully written. And also there is an emphasis on highlighting the beauty in this woman's life. Like, yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's dark. Yes, it's hard. All of the things that happen to her shouldn't be happening to her. Someone should be taking care of her. And even the people who take care of her are taking advantage of her. It's a really tough story. But when I think of it, I think of the scenes where she's making pancakes or waffles with this young kid that she's helping take care of. I'm thinking about what she enjoys about the world, why she chooses to keep persevering and pressing on. So this was obviously my choice here. It's heavy. It's dark. Do not go into it without checking into content warnings if you are someone triggered by anything that I have brought up, because it's on page, it's graphic. I do think at times it has a certain distance in the darkest moments, but then there are some moments where I'm just like, trying not to cry because it was just so sad. All right, number three. Fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. I don't know if I've read as many nonfiction this year, but I have enjoyed what I have read, and the one I'm going to talk about is Open Veins of Latin America. Love this book. It's dense and I think a little repetitive, but I think it's important that it's repetitive so you can just see the cycles that we never break out of, and the only thing that changes is we want X, so we're doing this again. So Open Veins of Latin America is kind of from the 1500s to the mid-20th century view of Central and South America and how imperialism and colonialism have put us approximately where we are today. Obviously, like I said, this book was written in the mid to late 20th century, so it's not all the way up to date, but if you've ever, not known or wondered, why are the economies the way they are? Why do we have these certain global political assumptions about certain countries? This is a really good grounding block material. I highly recommend it. But it is dense and it's not easy. And like I said, it's repetitive in maybe a little bit of a frustrating way. So, but that's my nonfiction that taught me something. Number 4, in order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with the people we love. Name a fictional family, household, friend group that you'd like to be a part of. And I worked really hard not to say the Rook and the Rose family because I have definitely said that on a previous version of this tag. But no, deep down, that's the answer. What I did put, because I just wanted to talk about this series again because it's been a minute, is in the 3rd book of the Dandelion Dynasty, you meet this group of people whose goal is to help each other achieve their goals and not necessarily achieve the goals society has lined up for them. And if you've heard of the Dandelion Dynasty and you've heard of this infamous like cooking competition scene, these characters are a part of that. And so I really liked all of them, getting to know them all, getting to know why they do what they do. And I just loved how they treated each other, how they supported each other. And that's the type of group I would be a part of. So that's what I'm putting here. If you haven't watched my Should You Read for the Dandelion Dynasty, it's truly one of the best things that I've read this year. If you still need some convincing, I have an interview with Ken Liu you can check out. Really great series. Number 5, the colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of fall-covered spines. We're not going to do that. I'm trying really hard not to move these books around, or if I do, I'm trying to make sure they're set up in a way so that when they knock them off the shelf, damage is limited. But I got some yellows and reds, some yellow here. I think, yeah, this book in particular, Library Mount Char, very fall colored. Number 6, fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story. This was hard because I didn't want to fall back on one that I feel like a lot of people have been using, which is like one of the secret projects and stuff like that by Sanderson. And for me, I think I decided to go with Freshwater. I haven't talked about this book a lot this year, and I really should because it is actually like a really solid book. And this is interesting because it's more of like, I don't know if we're really being told the story directly as readers, but it's being told in a reflective style. Sometimes, most of the time in multi-point of view, first person. So we is used a lot. And I think it worked really well in that way to bring us into moments, but also keep us at a distance when moments were really hard. This is the first work Akwaeke Emezi had published, potentially the first that they wrote. And it's very autofiction, even though it's not a memoir. And it has to do with this woman. Well, we start by knowing her as a woman. Gender becomes very fluid by the time we get to the end, but they're Obanje. And it's about what it means to be Obanje and how they go to school and their relationships that they have with their family and their friends and themselves as they learn who they are and learn how to live in that skin. And, just the messiness of life that also comes along the way and how they deal with that as Obanje. So yeah, this was really informative and interesting, beautifully written. Akwaeke Emezi has like a stunning style to their prose. Highly recommend. But it's heavy. And there are some dark moments, especially made darker when you consider this is autofiction, and if not the exact events, something probably adjacent to these events have occurred to the author themselves. But yeah, that's what I decided to put here because I really haven't talked about that book enough this year. Number 7, the nights are getting darker, share a dark, creepy read. And this was hard because I was really trying not to pull from all the dark, creepy reads I just talked about last week. But I recently just read a book that I didn't put on that list, and I don't know if it's necessarily the creepiest, but like, it had a factor to it that I wasn't expecting, so I kind of want to highlight it, and that's The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, which I did really enjoy. Not like an all-time favorite, but I was honestly very surprised by it in a good way. I knew it would be gothic. Definitely gothic, so it works for that. It's definitely dark topics, a lot of conversation around abuse in a lot of different facets. Emotional abuse, physical abuse, maybe like sexual assault that doesn't come to fruition. Like, it's dark. Dark fairy tale vibes. But something I didn't realize about it is how unsettling and creepy the fae/haunted house energy would be. Like, I thought of it more as like atmospheric gothic, which it definitely has, but it also has some of my favorite trappings of fae and haunted house stories without necessarily being like your traditional either one of those, and that's like where my creep factor comes in, the dark, unsettling tones. So now into number 8. The days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. I decided to go with A Tea Kingfisher. Because, of course, for all I know, I went with A Tea Kingfisher last year. And this is going to be Byrony and Roses. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so perfect for this time of year. This is the Beauty and the Beast retelling season. And it's short. I actually do think I read this within 24 to 36 hours, so it's perfect for, like, especially faster readers than me who are just like, I need a book to read on a rainy Saturday afternoon, I would try this out. And it's both a very faithful Beauty and the Beast adaptation with a little bit of a haunted house and T. Kingfisher's humor and, of course, obsession with something naturistic. Here it's gardening, and it's lovely. I highly, highly recommend, as I do basically every T. Kingfisher I've read. And now the last one is Fall Returns Every Year. Name an old favorite that I would like to return to soon. And this has been a very good year for rereading for me. And there's only been one, and I don't know if I'll get to it by the end of the year, but like maybe next year I'll make some plans to read it. Because Bethany at Beautifully Bookish Bethany has been reading, or has finished, Machineries of Empire by Yuhan Lee, which I read my first year on BookTube in 2020 into 2021. Actually, no, I think I finished almost all of it in 2020. And this is Nine Fox Gambit and the following books and the short stories. And I love this series. And Bethany reading it makes me want to reread it. And like I've always thought about when I wanted to reread it, having a read along for it, because it's definitely an intimidating world building series, but it's not that long. Like each book's like 300 to 400 pages. And I think it would just be really fun to read that in a group setting, especially for people who feel like that would help them. And I just like geeking out about my favorite books in my Discord with a bunch of friends. So this is the one that I'm most itching to maybe have a reread project for next year, because it's been a while and I always knew I'd wanted to reread it because it's just one of those things where it's going to be rewarding. I know so much more now than I did on my first read. And also it's still fresh enough that I haven't lost any of that world building work, but like not fresh enough that it'll still be just like a fun story to be like, oh, I forgot that scene happened. That sort of energy. Oh, the cats are trying to like not fall, but are falling off of their scratching post. It's pretty cute. So yeah, that's the Finally Fall book tag. If you want to answer any of the questions yourself, feel free to do so in the comments below. If you want to leave an emoji to just let me know you're here, leave a leaf, because fall leaves are lovely. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.